And boom. I think we're up. I don't know if we're up yet. Oh, we are. Hey. Hi. I don't know if anybody's on yet. We're early today. Usually, we're not so early. But today, we are early. That's a good thing. It's good news. Anytime we're early, that means that, you know, it's a normal day in the news, which doesn't exist anymore. So. Oh, what's up? There's people. Sander, 2020, hello. Joseph Sikins, hello. Sander, hi, how's it going? You guys are on YouTube. What else is up right now? Is TikTok up? Let's see. Hunter, oh, hey, how's it going, Hunter? What's up, Nick Hawks? Ashling? Normal news, not these days. I know, it is. Well, I mean, a lot of days are a lot crazier than today. Today is like normal crazy, relatively crazy, but not astronomically crazy, which is wonderful. Let's see. Hey, Susan. What's up, Susan? Papi Chulo. Hey, how's it going? Wakey, Sheriff Makun. Hello. From Nigeria? What? Awesome. Yeah. Kingston, Jamaica. Dude, I love when everybody jumps in from different places around the world, and Texas, and Virginia. Hey, what's up, Kevin? Kevin, my favorite Kevin in the world. All right, so if you guys are just joining us here and you guys are like, what is this multi-stream thing? This is the news in a way that we're gonna experiment with here. So here at NBC, they have allowed me to turn on the comments live. And it took some convincing. But this is a brave new world. So right here on our show, the plan is to have the comments going this entire time, throughout the entire show. And I'm gonna try to follow along with what you guys are saying, what you guys are thinking as you watch the news. And you guys are gonna keep it super, super cordial and be friendly with everybody in the chat. Even if you might disagree, you guys will, debate it out with nuance and appreciation and mutual respect. It's gonna be great. I can't wait. So that's my dream. Has it happened? Sometimes in short bursts, and that's what makes me think that it's possible. So we'll see. But as for what we're going to do here in the studio, we're just going to do the news. That means we're going to present all the biggest news stories that we see happening around the world. If news breaks, we're going to bring it to you right here. You might see it before everybody else sees it on the stream. Sometimes Lisa, you'll see Lisa in here. And actually, this is our girl, Lisa. Lisa up here, she's in the control room. She is out there in 30 Rock, in New York, the central hub of all things NBC. And she is keeping an eye on everything. She is the brain in my head. She is the voice in my ear.
No, the voice in your head, your brain is your own. I can't take credit for the brain.
She is one of the many voices in my head. She's real. You guys are now also going to be voices in my head because I try to read all the comments. I think all perspectives are very, very important, especially in this day and age. Whoa, hold on. Speaking of which, dang, you guys are talking really fast. Elliot, what up? Baltimore? Don't know who you're talking to, but it's not me. Yes, I am. I'm definitely talking to you, Bobby. Very American Idol. I don't know about this. That's a gutsy move? Yeah, I think. Let's see, schmoozing with that, yeah, right. Just everyday Sage, like news people are not celebrities. We are, like here's all the bad news that happened today. So let's hope for a better tomorrow. That's what we do. Celebrities, artists, they contribute, they inspire, they do all these things. So just, let's put that into context. Henry Lasher, that's a very good question. I'm not saying you need to trust us. I'm just saying we're going to show some of our work. We're going to show a little bit of how this works, and then you're going to see some of the questions, and hopefully you'll be a part of the conversation. And, we do our best to just bring as much news as humanly possible for free, by the way. Have you guys noticed? If you're on, let's see, TikTok or YouTube, You don't have to pay for this, and we're just going to give you all the stuff we've been gathering from the far reaches of planet Earth. And you get to make, informed, I don't know if they're informed opinions, but whatever you want to take from this newscast, you can. What's going on? Bart Madness, you've invited us into your living room. This is not my living room, thankfully, because there's no couches here. Although, Lisa will tell you, I have asked to do some non-traditional news stuff from non-traditional news places, like, places that feel a little bit more comfy, that you can wear stretchy pants to. Studios, you can't. Too humble, my guy. No, you are. We need world love, peace, and happiness. Gucci, that is right. Tell everybody in the chat when they get spicy, because starting right around the top of the show all the way to pretty much the last 10 minutes, super spicy. Everybody is just at each other's throats. And right now, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. So say your opinion without maybe saying that your opinion is the other person is blankety blank. Just leave your opinion there and then see what happens, Let's see. Your workroom then, your office. Henry, that would be great. My room is a mess. It would force me to clean it up. Marie Jasmine, I think we've seen a bunch of you here before. Carl Huber, proceed with the news. Hello from Florida. Hello from the beautiful Oregon coast. Yes. Please
Carl
be unfiltered.
Carl says get going. Carl doesn't want to wait 8 minutes.
Carl, he doesn't want to wait 8 minutes.
Carl ain't got 8 minutes to spare.
No, Carl's like, go! I tuned in for the news. Okay, technically my show starts at 5 o'clock. This is the part where we just chat. Clearly, you're not, small talk. Tell me what's happening. Carl, unfortunately, we can't go up on the network until 5 o'clock. So that's 5 o'clock here on the West Coast, 8 o'clock on the East Coast. Carl, I wish we could, but we cannot. So in about 7 minutes and 30 seconds, you're gonna see this show transform. It's not gonna look like this anymore. It's not gonna look like this, not like some iPad camera. All of a sudden, it is going to look like this whole area right here, this side. It's gonna be filled with our show. I'm not gonna be able to talk to you guys directly. I'm gonna be talking to the camera. We're gonna be putting together the show that we have been researching, writing, producing throughout the entire day, along with an amazing staff out there in 30 Rock doing all of the hard work. And we have looked at everything from what's happening right now in Minneapolis to the latest out of Iran to what we are seeing with this Don Roe doctrine and Venezuela and Mexico and Greenland. We are going to be taking a look at AI data centers. We're going to be looking at a ton of different stuff. And so that starts again in about 6 minutes and 30 seconds. But for now, if you want news, turn on your TV, your TV to NBC News Now. You will watch my boy Tom Yamas on Top Story. That is a show that comes before ours, and then we come after that. So yeah, if you want news, NBC News Now has it for you all the time. Love the purple colors. Aw, thanks. Purple, color of, it's neutral. It's red and blue, right? I don't know. It's also the color of the sunsets out here. Perhaps I will re-engage during the actual news. Carl, that's really, thank you, man. Just, dip back in. Give us 8 minutes and we'll be into it. District Heights, Maryland, nice. The world is crashing down on us, Marie. That is how I feel, and that's why we're building this space, because I don't want to feel that way. I want to feel like maybe the world's gonna end, or maybe it's not. But let's just hope that tomorrow could possibly be better. Leave a little room for that, but let's be realistic about what we're seeing everywhere. What up, Max? Max Columbus. Purple is beautiful. God bless America. SML, there you are. We were worried you weren't going to come. What is going on in Palestine? Oh, well, you know what? That is, there's actually been some really horrible weather in the Gaza Strip, and so we should get into some of that very soon here. News with guided meditation. Ashling, if I had a deeper voice, maybe. I wish. Yeah. And that's what Lisa's good for. She, you know, she talks me down off of ledges all the time.
Wait, I feel like we all need to hear the deeper voice now.
And that's the way it was tonight.
No.
Peace and calm throughout the lands.
No.
Unique New York. How now, brown cow? Is that deep enough?
No.
Shut up, Lisa. Anyway, ya boy Cyrus? Aw, thanks so much. Tell your mom, give her a big hug from us. Is she watching on the TV? Because that would be sick. If she's watching on an actual television, waiting for our show, and then you're just like, yo, Mom, I'm actually talking to him right here on my phone. Look, that's the dream. The dream is an interactive news show where we can talk together. That's what I'm hoping for. I don't know if it's gonna happen, but we're working on it. Let's see. That Liz, thanks so much. She watches on the TV. Dude, this is gonna be crazy. You're gonna blow her, maybe you'll blow her mind.
Oh, I know.
But yeah, tell her we said hi. I wish I could give her like a secret signal, that means shout out your boy Cyrus's mom. Let's see here. All right, so I do need to, we're getting close to the news now, so give me a second. I gotta just fire this thing up. Make sure everything is off to the races. And again, if you guys are just joining us, we've got some people watching on Twitter, TikTok. We've got some people watching on YouTube. Basically, what you're gonna see is you're gonna see the news, like a traditional news show, start in about 3 minutes. And in the commercial breaks, you can watch the commercials on the TV, but we can also talk because we're multitasking, you know? So as you're watching whatever you're watching, feel free to tell me what you're thinking. I'm gonna be trying to follow along with your comments throughout the show, and I'm also gonna be, like, if we're talking about something like, our first story is gonna be this lawsuit that the state of Minnesota is now filing against the federal government. You got questions about that kind of stuff? I'm gonna try to ask as many questions as I possibly can that I see in the chat. It's gonna be hard to make sure, we stay focused on the news and this little side hustle that we have, but that's the plan. After we graduate school, we need more journalists in this world. NBC News is favorite in channel TV. Nice, that is what we, and Lightning Game? What's Lightning Game? She says she always watches you because she has it on her Roku. Yes, that is awesome. Roku for the win. You can watch anything. Roku, Samsung, YouTube, you can watch at NBCnews.com, YouTube TV, you Sling, right? Amazon, there's anywhere you stream. Just look for NNN. That's NBC News Now. Where am I right now? I'm at 30. No, Lisa's at 30 Rock. I'm at Universal Studios here in sunny
Do you not know where you are right now?
No, I'm like, I'm just in New York. Unique New York. And let's see, I really hope this works for you and people to get to say what's on their minds. Yeah, say whatever you want on here, just as long as it is respectful to your chat friends. Viso, yes, SML, is that what you watched on? That's good to know. SML is like an OG in here.
1 minute to stop.
SML has been with us since day one, I believe. But SML, best behavior today, right? For sure. We're all gonna be on wonderful behavior. What's our time back?
You got about 45 to the open.
45 to the open.
up.
Yo, this is Big Mike. He's the floor director here.
Have a good show.
And then that over there, that's Ryan. Ryan's on the Ronin. And then right here, this is Artemo. This is like my nemesis. He's some sort of AI camera or robot camera, always trying to pull fast ones. Anyway, we got the news in like 30 seconds, so game time. Give me a second here. Again, in about 20 seconds, you're gonna see us go into full-on news mode, and then we're gonna chat during commercial break. So stay tuned, keep watching. 10 seconds out, this is where we get a little bit of nervous stomach every day. Been doing this for 22 years, and it still doesn't get easy, but here we go. Have a good show. Hey guys, it's Scotty Schwartz, and tonight, remember when the mayor of Minneapolis told ICE to get the F out of his city? Well, now officials there are suing the Trump administration to try to make that happen.
Right now, What we are asking for is an intervention from the court to push back on this unconstitutional conduct, pure and simple.
But DHS and the White House are touting the work of federal officers in Minneapolis, saying they have arrested criminal suspects illegally in the United States. We're going to have the latest from Minnesota tonight. Then protests in Iran have reached a deadly fever pitch. And while President Trump considers following through on his threat to attack the country for going after protesters, Iran says it's ready for war or ready for talks. Trump says he could decide which one in the coming days. Plus, the DOJ opens a criminal investigation of Fed Chair Jerome Powell, who says he is ready for a fight. And there's this moment a skier and her dog are briefly swept away in an avalanche. We're going to show you what happens next.
Tim, get, Tim, get! Tim, get! Tim!
And tonight, the state of Minnesota is suing the federal government, going after DHS, Border Patrol, and ICE, essentially asking them to get out after the shooting of a woman in Minneapolis during an ICE operation. Here's what Minnesota's Attorney General had to say about it.
We allege that DHS's use of excessive and lethal force, their warrantless, racist arrests, their targeting of our courts, our churches, houses of worship, and schools are a violation of the Administrative Procedures Act on arbitrary and capricious federal actions. And we ask that the courts will end the surge of thousands of DHS agents into Minnesota. In essence, a federal invasion of the Twin Cities and Minnesota, and it must stop.
Now, the White House is responding to the suit, saying it is a pathetic stunt and alleging Democrats will put the needs of illegal criminals over hardworking Americans. All of this coming as hundreds more federal officers arrived in Minnesota today. That led to even more clashes with protesters and officers. Law enforcement bringing out pepper spray and flashbangs to try to disperse the crowd. And we're also seeing people come out, not just in Minnesota, but coast to coast. Protests erupting over the weekend in cities like Los Angeles, D.C., New York. Meanwhile, DHS Secretary Kristi Noem says that anti-ICE protesters are now a target in federal operations as well. NBC News correspondent Shaquille Brewster is in Minneapolis tonight. Shaq, good to see you. What are the claims that are being made here in this lawsuit?
The biggest point that you're hearing from local officials, Gotti, is that the federal immigration enforcement, that stepped-up operation, is unlawful and unconstitutional. You have the Attorney General, and you heard some of that sound there before, but he's essentially saying that this is causing problems in his community and that it's causing money. It's costing money. It's causing hours of overtime for the Minneapolis Police Department, about $50 million in overtime, according to the mayor here. So the point that you're hearing from local officials is that not only are they against the operation in principle, the idea that you are rounding up undocumented immigrants here in this area, but they're saying that the way the federal government is doing it is unlawful and unconstitutional, and now they're asking for that judge to come in and step in and stop it.
And Shaq, that's what the officials are saying, but what are you hearing from people that are out there in the community or out there protesting?
Yeah, it's really a mix, because you saw some of that video and you showed some of that video of the clashes that you're seeing, especially in St. Paul, outside of that ICE processing facility. You're seeing those clashes. We saw it earlier today where protesters get in the street, and then you have the officers you're seeing on screen right now come out. They use pepper spray. They use flashbangs. Big dramatic clashes in the communities around Minneapolis. You have situations where we know there was a car accident involving Border Patrol agents, and then members of the community came out and wanted to be clear that they don't want this stepped-up immigration enforcement. But even beyond that, Gotti, there's a lot of pain. There's a lot of hurt there. I want you to listen to a conversation I had earlier today with someone who said she's not completely against immigration enforcement. She just doesn't like what she's seeing. Listen here.
We have flaws in our immigration system, and taking people who are here searching for a better life is just breaking my heart.
What's driving that emotion?
Terrorizing our communities, just love. I mean, I care about these officers too. I just feel like people are so misled. There's so much hate, and people are losing their humanity.
And the point that you hear from so many people is that they're just not comfortable with the way the administration is enforcing immigration laws right now. You see clips on social media of U.S. citizens getting wrapped up in this, having to be detained by Border Patrol, who are asking if you're a U.S. citizen, where were you born, how were you nationalized. People are uncomfortable with what they're seeing. But you mentioned the administration, even today, responding to the lawsuit, not just the Minnesota lawsuit, but also the lawsuit filed by the state of Illinois, responding to it, saying they're essentially political stunts, defending what you've been seeing from the federal government, saying that they're simply enforcing immigration laws. They say that is what President Trump was elected to do, and they're saying that this is essentially a result of that.
And Shaq, do we have a timeline on not just the legal proceedings, but what the operation that we're seeing on the federal level could look like in Minnesota?
No, we don't. I mean, there's a lot that we don't know. If you talk about this operation in Minnesota, for example, it's something that's been going on for more than a month at this point. And we know the DHS secretary signaled that it is only increasing. Hundreds of federal officers are coming to Minneapolis and should be in this area by the end of the night, on top of the more than 2,000 agents that were here. But when you talk about that lawsuit, though, we know that if you look at even what we saw in Chicago in the fall, these are lawsuits that take a lot of time to go through and to process and to really end in any result, even when a judge sides with the state. I think about some of the lawsuits we saw in Illinois involving the deployment of the National Guard. You remember President Trump ordered the National Guard, federalized it in Illinois. It took months for that issue to be resolved. The Supreme Court ultimately sided with the state of Illinois, but you had for several weeks about 300 guardsmen from the state of Illinois were still under that federal control. So there is power that federal judges have. There are things they can do, steps they can take. I think back to Illinois and improving some of the facilities of the ICE detention facilities, or limiting how Border Patrol can react to crowds of protesters. But all of that takes time. It's not something that you have instantly in effect. So it can take some time, even if the state or the city ultimately ends up successful here.
Shaq Brewster out there in Minnesota for us. Shaq, thank you. And now to Iran, where the regime is reportedly intensifying its violent crackdown on protesters across the country. It is hard right now to get a full picture of what's happening, but we are starting to get glimpses like this. And a warning, some of these confrontations are violent and at times bloody. New video tonight, verified by NBC News, shows a person who was badly hurt, but we are missing context and confirmation on who that person is, what their role was in the violence. And there are rows and rows of body bags lining the streets of Tehran. U.S. human rights organizations now report more than 600 people have been killed since these protests swept the country last month. That includes members of Iran's security forces. Now, those are just estimates and solid information. For the outside world, it is very scarce. The entire country has now crossed 100 hours of this. This is a near total internet blackout. The government has shut down Wi-Fi, cell phone service starting last Thursday, January 8th. That's where you see that massive drop there. While that's happening, the government is also pushing a very different image. An Iranian government-aligned news outlet released footage today showing the country's president and foreign minister at a rally in Tehran. The foreign minister said the situation is now, quote, under total control, claiming protests have dropped sharply. And NBC's Yasmin Fasugian joins us now. Yasmin, good to see you. All this is coming as we're hearing these calls for the United States to get involved. I know that looks right now like it comes in the form of sanctions, but does it look like the United States is going to intervene beyond that?
I mean, I don't think we really know. If you think back to the 12-day war, Gadi, over the summer between Israel and Iran, there were ongoing negotiations between the United States and Iran at the time, and then Israel launched on Iran. So even if, for instance, the president is saying that they got a phone call via Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff from the Iranians saying they wanted to talk and negotiate. Negotiate what really is the question. It doesn't necessarily mean that the United States isn't going to launch on Iran. The State Department calling for all Americans to leave the country. And we saw that True Social post from the president just a couple of hours ago in which he said effective immediately any country doing business with the Islamic Republic of Iran will pay a tariff of 25% on any and all business being done with the United States of America. What I think is important, though, to remind folks is I've been speaking to people in Iran. There is an internet blackout, but I have been able to get, spotty conversations through or through third parties. And there is a sense that they want to feel as if they have support from outside the country. What that support looks like is really in question. Something like this, a move like this from the president, is not necessarily going to make the Iranians feel as if they have support from outside the country. They need more. What that more actually looks like, again, I think really is in question, because the Iranians certainly don't want to see millions of their fellow countrymen dying in a war if the United States were to launch on Iran. But that may very well be what it takes, i.e. a military intervention from the United States if, in fact, they want to topple this regime, which it seems as if that is what the Iranians do, in fact, want, with the economic state being what it is right now in the country.
And Yasmin, what is the red line for the President Trump right now when it comes to Iran? Because we heard earlier that it was, if they started to kill protesters, it appears as though that crackdown has definitely turned deadly. Do we know what the red line is?
We don't, and I wish I knew, but we don't necessarily know. And again, I think we have to think back to the 12-day war. That is the biggest clue we have. What is different, I think, about this time around, Gadi, is that in administrations past, there was the threat of, launching on Iran, threatening the regime and not cracking down on its people, but there was never, ever any action, right? But this time around, the United States didn't outright endorse Israel's launch on Iran, but they certainly did not stop them. And that in and of itself speaks to what the United States might be considering in this. Although I will keep in mind, Donald Trump is dealing with a lot. The president is dealing with a lot. They're dealing with Ukraine. They're dealing with still what's happening between Israel and Gaza. They're dealing with Venezuela and Maduro as well. So taking on something like Iran and a possible regime change could be one step too far, hence the reason why the president is taking the steps that he's taking in announcing these tariffs. Also, to be clear, there's not many countries that are dealing with Iran. Primarily, these tariffs are focused on two countries, Russia and China, Gadi.
Yeah, such a good point. And I know you were speaking to people that were in Iran and getting some messages from those that are there. We've heard the president talking about Elon Musk's Starlink, and there's a lot of confusion about whether Starlink is up and running in Iran surreptitiously or whether it's been taking hits. Do you know what the situation is like? Are some of the people that you're talking to, are they able to get their signal out that way? Or how are people able to communicate with the outside world?
So my understanding is, as of a few hours ago, Starlink was up and running at the time. I've had individuals that have been speaking with folks via Starlink inside the country. I also spoke with someone who is helping funnel a campaign of Starlink devices into the country through 4 major depots. I mean, they're bringing them over through across the border into Iran from various entry points. It is the main way in which Iranians are looking to be able to contact the outside world. There's also these satellites that are positioned all across Iran that people have that allow them to access VPNs so that they are not blocked out from the internet. It seems as if the Iranian government is now going around the country collecting these satellites so people cannot contact really the outside world. If those satellites are taken away and they are somehow able to scramble the Starlink connection, that would literally leave Iran, the entire country, the entire people in that country in a major blackout state. But as of now, it seems as if Starlink is still going. And for Iranians right now, I mean, it is a cliche to use this phrase, but information certainly is power, not only for them and for each other to know that they are all still protesting and supporting one another, but to make sure that they feel as if people outside Iran are seeing what is happening inside the country.
Yeah, and just a reminder that getting those images out is such a dangerous undertaking. Yasmin, thank you so much for your reporting. And let's bring in Elise Levitt, author of the Cosmopolitics Substack. Elise, great to see you. I do want to ask, I mean, over the weekend, we saw some words of encouragement and some words of support from some very high-ranking U.S. government officials, the Secretary of Defense or the war here in the United States. People thought that we were going to see some sort of kinetic possible strike in Iran. That's what people were asking for inside of Iran and people with family there. And yet, you know, today we're seeing these sanctions from the president. What do you think the U.S. role is going to be there in the near term here?
Well, I think it's definitely a kind of pressure campaign, whether it's the sanctions or, you know, a lot of rhetoric, but it's also got sharper edges that it has in the past with these military threats, with these sanctions. I think Yasmin makes a good point about everything that the president has going on. But if you look at what's going on in the region right now, and just the other day, President Trump ordered the launch of attacks against ISIS in Syria. I mean, the region, the Middle East, is still, you know, not out of his mind. He may be focused on Venezuela right now. But if you think at what's happened in Iran and around in the region with its proxies over the last few years, Gotti, you're never going to get another opportunity like this. I mean, I won't say it's the end of the regime, but it could be the beginning of the end. Israel is, you know, salivating for the end of the regime in the leadership. But I think, you know, we have to look at what's going on in Venezuela. Does the United States want to unseat the entire government, the entire regime? Then what does that leave you with? That leaves you with the IRGC. And a lot of people are afraid that that could even be more deadly, more of a crackdown than some of the supreme leader and some of the clerics. So, you know, and another thing to keep in mind is, you know, Steve Witkoff is doing a lot of the Middle East, you know, envoy stuff. But, you know, the administration has really gutted a lot of the institutional knowledge and a lot of the experts on Iran that were, you know, embedded in the foreign service that they had. And so, you know, you really don't have a very big bench of people that know what's going in Iran, that have contacts in the region. Certainly there are talks going on, but I think it's going to be calibrated. I wouldn't rule out the idea that President Trump could launch some cyber attacks along with Israel, that the president could go after some, when we talk about kinetic, it could go after some sites that are used to crack down on the protesters. I don't think the administration wants to get into an open war, but I wouldn't rule out them taking some kind of action.
And at least the Iranian regime, I mean, they've been seeing protests and putting them down brutally sometimes for decades. Does this actually seem different this time around?
It does seem different, and if you talk to Iranians in the diaspora and you talk to experts and former officials, they say that it is different. And again, why? Because of what Iran has faced. Clearly, the size and scope, I mean, you had those pictures. You know, yes, the protests have been, you know, large in the past, but they weren't always calling for the end to the regime. They were calling for, you know, more freedoms. They were calling for, you know, less crackdowns or democracy or the economy, but they weren't openly calling for the end of the regime. So not only is it about the economy, but it's about the regime itself. The people want this regime gone, and the regime has never been as fragile as it is right now. What does the regime take its power from? It takes its power from clearly its security services and its force, but also its proxies. And, you know, it's certainly never been weaker. It doesn't have that many allies, as Yasmin said, really. You know, now that Venezuela, now that Maduro is gone, you could, you know, you don't have a lot of allies in Latin America. I think the regime is really on the ropes. Again, I think it's maybe the beginning of the end, but clearly the administration wants to continue to put that pressure and keep sharpening and keep tightening the noose.
Yeah, only time will tell. Elise Levitt, thank you so much. And turning now to what could be this federal investigation into Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell and a Fed chair pushed back like we have never seen before. But to be clear, like all of this is we use this word a lot, but unprecedented. The things really came to a head last night when Powell posted a video saying the DOJ subpoenaed the central bank and is threatening a criminal indictment of him because political pressure. Take a look.
This new threat is not about my testimony last June or about the renovation of the Federal Reserve buildings. It is not about Congress's oversight role. The threat of criminal charges is a consequence of the Federal Reserve setting interest rates based on our best assessment of what will serve the public, rather than following the preferences of the president.
Now, the DOJ is saying all of this is because of Powell's Senate testimony over the summer about the Federal Reserve building renovation. Remember the awkward drama about that reno way back in July? This one?
So we're taking a look, and it looks like it's about $3.1 billion. It went up a little bit, or a lot. So the 2.7 is now 3.1.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, it just came out.
Yeah, I haven't heard that from anybody. Yeah, you just added in a third building is what that is. That's a third building.
Well, no, but it's a building that's being built.
No, it was built 5 years ago. We finished Martin 5 years ago.
It's part of the overall work.
But it's not new.
Okay, so fast forward to today. For his part, Trump told NBC News that he doesn't know anything about the subpoenas, but added what should pressure him is the fact that the rates are far too high. That's the only pressure he's got. And let's bring in NBC News Chief Justice and National Affairs Correspondent Kelly O'Donnell. Kelly, we've seen Trump say that he would love to fire Jerome Powell as early as last year. Could an investigation set up a termination like that? And what are the options that Powell has right now?
Well, it is complicated. A president can only fire the Federal Reserve Chair for cause. And you could imagine a scenario where an investigation that led to charges could be used for cause. But that's getting way ahead of things here. The president has repeatedly said he would like to fire Powell, but then also saying he does not intend to do that. And remember, he nominated Powell originally. Powell's term comes to an end this spring. The president's sort of looking beyond that and hoping to nominate someone else. That gets complicated because one Republican senator from North Carolina has said that he will not support any moving forward with a nomination while there's a Powell investigation going on, because he believes it is politically motivated. So there's a lot here. Now, Powell came forward with this publicly. He's the one who announced the subpoenas. The Department of Justice has not commented on this. They just say that there are ongoing investigations that they cannot discuss, which sort of implies there's an ongoing investigation, but they're not talking about it. It's also important for your viewers to know that this does not involve taxpayer money. The Federal Reserve finances itself, independent of the government, and that independence is really at the heart here. Now, the specific issue, Powell says that he is told it has to do with his testimony before Congress. It is a requirement that any witness testify truthfully to Congress, and failure to do so could be an offense, a criminal offense. Is it something in that realm? We just don't know, but that's what the indications are at this point. There's a big project here in Washington where they're renovating the original Federal Reserve headquarters. It's a 100-year-old building. Costs have gone up, but again, that's not taxpayer money. Congress does have oversight on the Federal Reserve, but it is an independent agency, and that's at the root of all of this.
And Kelly, I remember way back in the day, anything that had to do with the Fed chair announcement, it could move markets. Yesterday, when that video came out, it seemed like a lot of people were a little shaken. And then we didn't see a crazy up and down on Wall Street today, right?
That's right. So far today, there isn't an obvious cause and effect. However, the Treasury Secretary has expressed frustration to the president directly about what could happen here, based on reporting by NBC News. He spoke to the president directly, and according to our source, who said had direct knowledge of that conversation, was familiar with what happened, that the president expressed frustration and said this situation is a mess. It's a distraction from other things. The independence of the Federal Reserve as the central bank of the United States is an important principle. And so any political interference is viewed as a threat to the markets and a real problem, potentially. Now, it's understandable why the president would like lower interest rates and would like to be able to control that. But that's not how the system works. And so we'll see if there are sort of impacts in the financial markets broadly going forward with wherever this investigation goes. But to say this was unusual In a time when we often talk about unusual things with the Trump administration, this was a big one to have a criminal probe of the Federal Reserve Chairman. Gotti?
Yeah, quite a start to the year. NBC's Kelly O'Donnell. Kelly, thank you. Meanwhile, ever since the capture and arrest of Nicolas Maduro, President Trump's entire foreign policy has been seeing a whole new level of scrutiny and debate. What he said about bombing cartels in Mexico, taking Greenland, Cuba, Venezuela. The administration insisting all options right now are on the table as Trump looks to assert dominance over the entire Western Hemisphere and what he and others are calling the Don Roe Doctrine. Let's bring over Leanne Caldwell. She is Washington correspondent for Puck News. Leanne, great to see you. Lots to get to, starting with our closest neighbor here first, Mexico. What's the latest going on there?
Yeah, so Donald Trump has continued to threaten Mexico with violence and military attacks against the cartels. This is something that he has said since very early into his administration. It ebbs and it flows, and this is something that is not going away. He almost feels more emboldened since the very successful capture and seizure of Venezuela's president, Nicolas Maduro. And so this is giving more fuel and more worry to American allies, to U.S. Countries who are not necessarily allies either, that President Trump is going to follow through on what he says, Gotti.
And speaking of momentum, I mean, Venezuela and cartels and Mexico, those seem related. But we've also got the Greenland conversation that's happening right now. As Trump ramps up the pressure with Greenland, like, what are negotiations or maybe even actual preparations looking like right now?
So it's interesting. You know, I focus on Capitol Hill, and I spent all last week talking to Republicans about Greenland. And almost every single one said that Greenland is not going to be taken by any sort of military action. They were confident about that. When I asked if they were given any assurances by the administration that that would not happen, they, of course, had not. Meanwhile, the Danish ambassador was on Capitol Hill, very worried about the possibility that there was going to be some sort of seizure of Greenland militaristically from the United States, meeting with Republican members of Congress to try to get them to stand up to the president and to ensure that something like that does not happen. So, you know, there's a lot of talk that it is just Donald Trump's maneuvering of how he negotiates, but that he would buy Greenland. But the thing is it's not for sale. And so what you said in your opening was really the point, Gotti, that he wants to control the Western Hemisphere, whether that is taking, you know, inserting American dominance in other countries, owning or taking Greenland, using military force in Mexico. I'm not really surprised he hasn't brought up Canada as a 51st state recently, because that is something that he has been obsessed with in the recent past as well. But this dominance over the Western Hemisphere seems to be what the president's outward goal is. And it is causing a lot of consternation, not only in this Western Hemisphere, but also in Europe as well, Gotti.
Yeah, and I think you just jinxed us this week, so we'll be hitting you up if the Canada stuff comes up. Meanwhile, circling back to Venezuela, I thought that there was one thing that really struck me about last week. It seemed like Trump was not very happy with the response from a certain head of ExxonMobil during that meet and greet with all of the different titans of oil last week. And then he was asked about it today, and all of it came out publicly. Let's take a look at what we're talking about here.
If we look at the legal and commercial constructs and frameworks in place today in Venezuela, today it's uninvestable. And so significant changes have to be made to those commercial frameworks, the legal system.
I didn't like Exxon's response. We have so many that want it. I'd probably be inclined to keep Exxon out. I didn't like their response. They're playing too cute.
Now, if you saw that without seeing the whole entire roundtable discussion, you'd be like, yeah, whatever. But when you juxtapose that with the effusive praise that everybody at that table was given to the president, it did seem pretty stark. What was your read on all this?
Yeah, it's not really the playbook that appeals to Donald Trump. I don't know if the Exxon CEO was briefed very well on how to address the president when you have to, stroke his ego essentially and tell him how great he is. But really, the Exxon CEO was saying exactly what oil companies are thinking. It is very difficult. The type of crude is very complicated there, and the political dynamics and the country is complicated as well. There's a lot of instability, and it's a huge risk for them. And so the president trying to pressure these oil companies into investing in Venezuela, we'll see if this works. But it's also really underscoring the fact that this perhaps was not necessarily about being a narco terrorist, but more about the resources and the oil. And that's a huge question, too, as far as when Greenland comes up. He talks about it from a national security perspective, but the United States already has access to a military base there. There's a treaty where the United States can use those resources, but there are a lot of minerals there that the United States could actually use that the president might want. Gotti.
Leanne Caldwell from Puck. Leanne, thank you. And don't go anywhere. Up next, a chaotic brawl breaks out at a youth hockey game, but people are saying it might have been staged, what we are learning there. Plus, Elon Musk's AI company is going macro hard in response to Microsoft. They are investing a $20 billion into an AI data center in Mississippi that has local officials excited, but there is some concern that we're going to get into later this hour, so stay tuned. All right, 90 seconds. Okay, we got 90 seconds. All right, what's going on? What did I miss here? It's the restarting of the Monroe Doctrine. It truly is, in a way that we, like she brought up Canada. I think that that's going to come into the equation, but it's this idea that the entire hemisphere is at play when it comes to China and Russia, who have been investing massive amounts of money all across Latin America, Central America. So yeah, good grief, these so-called, oh my gosh. Notice the presenter, Scotty, is outfitted like a citizen journalist. Body type is slim, cut trousers, and dark glasses. I can't see without my glasses. And thanks for calling me slim. I'm definitely dad-bodding these days. But that's kind of a compliment, I think. Yeah, we're doing the news a little bit differently here. And it's because I can't sit still and I can't do the news like everybody else. But I would like to, I just can't. Let's see. Yes, yeah, get a little bit. I saw hand signals. That's called my Guatemalan pasión. I can't not talk with my hands. I'm sorry. Every time I host like nightly news, I always get somebody emailing, being like, "Can you please get your hands under control?" And that was probably you. So I will try to put up my hands in my pockets right now for you, as long as I possibly can. Good luck. Okay, here we go.
5,
Chapin.
4,
Yes.
3.
Hey, welcome back. Here are some of the headlines we're watching tonight. A youth hockey game got really, really ugly over the weekend, and now there are a bunch of investigations into what happened. There's one organization accusing the Hershey Bears of staging that whole brawl there, but the team says the fight does not reflect their values. The team also says they are investigating. And a dog started a fire at an Ottawa home after he chewed through a battery-powered heated glove. That was all caught on camera. Fire officials say someone called 911 when they saw smoke and flames pouring out of the first floor of that house. They were able to get that dog out safely, and no humans were home when that fire started. And about 15,000 nurses are now on strike in New York City. They walked off the job this morning after their union and hospitals failed to reach a new contract. This is the largest strike of its kind in city history, and it impacts both private and nonprofit hospitals. And the 40th eruption of Hawaii's Mount Kilauea is happening right now. That eruption started just after 8 this morning, and experts are expecting low winds to keep the lava plume closer to the summit for Kilauea's big 40th. And over the weekend, 180 figure skaters left it all on the ice in hopes of securing one of the 16 spots on Team USA. And among them, Maxim Nevrov, who lost both of his parents in a D.C. plane crash last year, is now headed to Milan, where the games are set to kick off in just 3 weeks. And in Ohio, the man accused of murdering a dentist and his wife made his first court appearance. NBC News correspondent Aaron McLaughlin has that story.
For the first time, we saw accused killer Michael David McKee in court today. The vascular surgeon, clean cut in handcuffs, wearing a yellow jumpsuit, speaking only to say his name during a 2-minute-long court appearance where he waived his right to an extradition hearing. McKee is now charged with 2 counts of aggravated murder, premeditated for the shooting deaths of his ex-wife, Monique Tepe, and her husband, Spencer. Monique married McKee back in 2015. The couple had no children and divorced after less than 2 years of marriage, court documents citing, quote, incompatibility. 3.5 years later, Monique married Spencer Tepe. The couple had 2 children, ages 4 and 1, who were also inside the Columbus, Ohio home when McKee allegedly opened fire, killing Monique and Spencer on the upper floor in the early hours of the morning on December 30th. 11 days later, McKee was arrested for the double homicide roughly 400 miles away here in Rockford, Illinois, where he practiced medicine. According to court documents, investigators linked McKee's vehicle to the area where the Tepe's home on the night of the murders. Today in court, McKee's public defender said he's waiving his right to an extradition hearing so that he could plead not guilty in Ohio as soon as possible. It's unclear at this point when his extradition is going to take place. Back to you.
Aaron McLaughlin, thank you. And now to Mississippi, where police now have in custody the man suspected of setting a historic synagogue on fire. Luckily, no one was hurt, but the suspect told officials he targeted it for its, quote, Jewish ties. NBC's Jesse Kirsch reports.
Tonight, this is what's left of Jackson, Mississippi's only Jewish house of worship after an anti-Semitic attack. The Beth Israel synagogue largely reduced to rubble after a suspect deliberately set fire to the temple. This synagogue surveillance footage shows the hooded attacker pouring gasoline inside. Authorities say 19-year-old Stephen Spencer Pittman is now charged with arson after confessing to lighting the fire because of the building's Jewish ties. According to the FBI, map data shows Pittman left home early Saturday, stopped at a gas station, and then arrived at what he called the Synagogue of Satan. That's when he allegedly used an axe to break a window, poured gasoline, and set the synagogue on fire. Later, Pittman allegedly laughed as he told his father what he did and said he finally got them. Investigators say the suspect's father turned in his son.
Attack against the synagogue is an attack against all of us.
A congregation spokesperson says no synagogue members were injured in the attack, but at least 2 sacred prayer scrolls were destroyed. Anti-Semitic incidents have been surging in the U.S. after Hamas's 2023 terror attack on Israel, according to recent data from the Anti-Defamation League. This was not the first attack on Beth Israel. In 1967, the Ku Klux Klan bombed the temple and the home of its anti-segregationist rabbi, according to the synagogue website. Tonight, the suspect is in custody as the synagogue congregation says it wants Jewish life to continue proudly and even defiantly.
Jesse Kirsch, thank you. And as severe weather storms pound the United States, sudden avalanches in Alaska, Washington, and Colorado have caught some communities off guard, and they've even become deadly. NBC's Liz Kreutz has the latest.
Tonight, multiple avalanches creating a dangerous few days on the slopes. This harrowing video showing a skier in the mountains between Spain and France being violently swept downhill by an avalanche. You can hear her calling out for her dog as she slides down the mountain for some 15 seconds, finally safely coming to a stop. The incident is one of several recent avalanches from Juneau, Alaska, where there's an evacuation advisory following multiple avalanches, including this one, to Washington State, where on Friday an avalanche turned deadly. Officials say 38-year-old Paul Markoff and 43-year-old Eric Henney were killed while skiing in the eastern Cascade Mountains. According to the sheriff's office, 2 others they were with survived, using a small satellite device to send a distress call.
They were shaken, and they had tried to do what they could to find and save their friends unsuccessfully.
The avalanche risk also high in Colorado, where this video shows a group of skiers swept up in the Rocky Mountain National Park. Officials say one of the riders dislocated his shoulder while grabbing onto a tree. Thankfully, they all made it out alive.
What is it about the conditions right now that are triggering these avalanches?
Well, all but one of these were avalanches and wind-drifted snow. And so it was a combination of a little bit of new snow, a bunch of wind that drifted that new snow, and then it was a really nice weekend. It just lured a lot of people out into the mountains.
An important warning this winter. Liz Kreutz, NBC News.
A reminder of the dangers of the backcountry. Liz, thank you so much. And coming up, Senator Mark Kelly, he is suing the Pentagon as tensions rise between him and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. Look at where things stand. Coming up next. All right, 90 seconds. Okay, 90 seconds. Lay it on me. All right, where are we? Wild video. Glad the dog is okay. Yeah, gosh, that dog was just following her down without even, like, no hesitation, just following her in the middle of an avalanche. That is a good boy. Let's see, NBC News mug, SML, one of these days, maybe. Mocha, thanks so much. I don't know what these are, but that's nice. Let's see. Oh, Kyle, thanks. Let's see. Oh, where'd that guy go that was making fun of my glasses? I work night shift, and this live is my favorite part of the night. Thank you for your work. Oh, Breaking the Spell podcast, nice. Where? Well, I don't want to get you in trouble, so you don't have to say where you work, because you should be working hard. You are working hard. You know what? Learning about the world, that's hard work. What's our time back?
30.
30 seconds. Okay, we still have some time. Hold on, let's see. What are your roots? You pronounce words in Spanish. Porque nací en Guatemala. How about you? Telluride. Hi from Liverpool, UK. Nice. Okay, gotta go back here. 15 seconds. Hey, welcome back. The ongoing battle between U.S. Senator Mark Kelly and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is heating up, with Kelly now saying he is suing Hegseth and the Pentagon. He says their effort to reduce his military retirement rank and censure him is, quote, unlawful and unconstitutional. Here's what he had to say on the Senate floor earlier.
Pete Hegseth's unconstitutional crusade against me sends a chilling message to every retired member of the military. If you speak out and say something that the President and Secretary of Defense doesn't like, you will be censured, threatened with demotion, or even prosecuted.
Now, remember, all this is happening after Hegseth said the Pentagon was working to demote Kelly over what he calls seditious statements, referring to this video.
Like us, you all swore an oath
to protect and defend this Constitution.
Right now, the threats to our Constitution aren't just coming from abroad, but from right here at home.
Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
And we are just hearing back from the Pentagon, who says they have no comment on this matter. Joining us now is NBC News legal analyst Misty Maris. Misty, great to see you. A sitting lawmaker now suing the federal government, suing an entire department, really. How does that work?
Yeah, Gotti. So the first thing that would have to be established is what's called legal standing to bring a lawsuit. And in order to establish that, Kelly has to show that he would be personally harmed by the conduct of, in this case, Pete Hegseth and the Pentagon. Well, because this relates specifically to his retirement benefits and military rank, that won't be too hard of a bridge to cross. But there's going to be a lot of issues relating to separation of powers, that these statements were made by Kelly in his role as a congressman, that he's not an active military member. There's so many different factors here, because you're talking about the administrative procedure seeking to affect his military benefits, and now a case that's being opened in a federal court seeking to put that on pause. So a lot of things happening at the same time, one to watch here.
I mean, does it seem like Kelly has a solid legal case here?
Yeah, so with respect to the administrative proceeding in general, these types of cases are brought when someone is an active military member. Now, retirees still do have to abide by the rules. They're still receiving a pension, and it does bind under the military law. But what you see here is Kelly raising an argument, and you heard it in the clip you just played, about the fact that he's made these comments as a congressman. And part of his filing, he says that this is a violation of the speech and debate clause. He's being retaliated against for making a statement relating to his role as a legislator. And in addition to that, he's on the Senate Armed Services Committee. So when he's talking about military action, that directly relates to said role. So all of those would be issues for the court to hash out.
The Armed Services Committee, I mean, that is such a kink in all of this. I mean, how do you see this moving through the courts? And when it comes to conflicts of interest, like we are going to see those raised, right?
Of course, we would see them raised. But what I think we'll see right now is we're at the very beginning stages. So it's important to know procedurally what's happening. Kelly has filed what's called an injunction. So he wants to put a pause on that administrative action. And the standard for an injunction is that there would be irreparable harm if this administrative proceeding were to move forward and he were to be basically retaliated against for these comments that he's made. And there's a likelihood of success on the merits. So those are the two arguments. And you see why he's focused on the chilling effect that this would have on other members of Congress or lawmakers generally. So that's what that irreparable harm prong is. So the court could say, we're going to put a pause on this and not allow this administrative procedure to move forward. But Gotti, in some cases, before a federal court will get involved, they require that administrative process to play out. It's called exhausting all administrative remedies. So the court could really go either way on this one. And remember, it's important to know there's a dual path here, right? There's the administrative proceeding, which is of great consequence, in addition to now this federal court injunction that's being sought.
Misty Maris, appreciate your analysis. Thank you so much. And the battle for Warner Brothers Discovery continues. After their 8th offer was declined, Paramount Skydance chairman and CEO David Ellison is now suing Warner Brothers today. Ellison wants Warner Brothers to disclose the financial details of their $83 billion deal with Netflix. NBC's Chloe Malas explains.
Hey there, Gotti. Well, things are getting really heated. So shortly after Paramount Skydance filed their lawsuit in Delaware against Warner Brothers Discovery, saying that they wanted more transparency into the deal with Netflix. They also wanted to know how they were valuing different parts of the company, including their cable assets. Warner Brothers Discovery came out with a very strong statement, and I want to read it to you. It says, quote, despite 6 weeks and just as many press releases from Paramount Skydance, it is yet to raise the price or address the numerous and obvious deficiencies of its offer. They go on to say, instead, Paramount Skydance is seeking to distract with a meritless lawsuit and attacks on a board that has delivered an unprecedented amount of shareholder value. So, Gotti, they go on to talk about how they have unanimously concluded that Netflix deal is far better. But when you listen to the Ellisons and this lawsuit, they're saying, we don't understand. We offered $108 billion, not just for the film studio and the streamer, but for the entire company. That includes Discovery, it includes CNN. And so what they're saying is we have the better value, and they have now also launched not just a lawsuit, Gotti, but a proxy fight. What does that mean? Well, it means that they are influencing shareholders that have a large financial stake in Warner Brothers Discovery to come over to their side to see the Paramount Skydance future here, a potential future, and to become potential board members. And this is a proxy fight. This is something that can be very complicated, but it appears to potentially be a path forward for Paramount Skydance, that if they can be successful in getting some of these shareholders to become potential board members, it could mean that the current Warner Brothers board could get disrupted, and then this Netflix deal could potentially fall apart. Now, I just want to also point out here that if Warner Brothers Discovery decides to cut ties with Netflix and move forward with Paramount Skydance, they are going to have to pay Netflix over $2 billion. And think about that for a second. David Zaslav, who owns Warner Brothers Discovery, he runs Warner Brothers Discovery, I should say, he has a lot of debt. That is why he is trying to offload these assets. So why would you then want to also add some couple capital B's to the mix and have to now pay Netflix? So again, it's getting incredibly complicated and incredibly heated, and we could see this all actually play out in a courtroom. Gotti?
Interesting. Chloe Malas, thank you so much. And coming up in the future of everything, Elon Musk setting up shop in Mississippi for a new $20 billion AI data center for his AI company. Why locals are concerned there.
90.
All right, 90 seconds, 90 seconds. Okay, back to the stream. Let's see. I think it was Ellison, which I have no idea about that. Anthony Robledo. Very interesting, though. Gotta, you need to update your graphics. SML, I love these graphics. I love them a lot. Especially the future of everything. Look at that. And then Los Angeles in the skyline. Down there it says business, climate, diplomacy, economics, finance, globalization, the future of every. Why don't you like those? We were looking for like a kind of an interstellar vibe, cyberpunk. You don't know me very well. These graphics are very me. Look, palm trees, the mountains.
45.
Let me see your graphics. Let me see your graphics, SML. Let's see. All right, so yeah, we've got this Elon Musk XAI company story coming up here. Oh my, Rayhani, dude. Oh my gosh, New Zealand is in the house, it looks like. Future of TV, love the interactive show live. Huh. Now you guys jinxed me. Watch this. That's what happens when things go south. I'm going to try not to mess up. Also, whoever told me to keep my hands in my pocket, I tried for 10 seconds. What's our time back?
10.
10 seconds. It didn't work. It feels weird. Can't do it.
Stand by.
Hey, welcome back. In tonight's Future of Everything, we are taking a look at a $20 billion investment made in the state of Mississippi by Elon Musk's AI company, XAI. But while it's the largest investment in the state's history, locals are already raising concerns on the environmental and the noise impacts a data center might bring. Take a look.
This is literally going to be the home of the most cutting-edge, largest computer in the world.
Elon Musk's artificial intelligence company XAI is investing $20 billion to build a new data center in South Haven, Mississippi. It's the largest private investment in the state's history. The data center is part of a new idea from Musk, a software company where all the software is created by AI. He calls the company MacroHard, a dig at Microsoft, and he's named his new Mississippi facility MacroHarder. And officials seem excited about the new multi-billion-dollar investment.
We know that this development is coveted around the globe. Any city in the world would love to have you here.
The tax revenue generated here as a result of this record-breaking investment will help support vital programs and services.
But a lot of these data centers don't have the cleanest environmental records. A study released earlier this year found AI data centers may be using as much water as humanity drinks from plastic bottles each year. And they might create as much pollution as the city of New York. In Memphis, Tennessee, just a few miles from South Haven, another massive XAI project raised environmental concerns among those who live there.
We are the people for the people, and we deserve to breathe clean air. Yeah.
And for some of those in South Haven, Mississippi, the noise pollution is already causing problems.
You're worried about the hum that sounds like a jet airplane on a runway.
And the high-pitched noise, which is constant. These temporary units, which should be at 44 or below for the decibels. I can tell you that high-pitched noise carries farther than that.
To put that in perspective, a normal conversation is 60 decibels. NBC Memphis's Michaela Redmond did her own decibel test on the ground, and she found that even 7 minutes away from the construction site, decibels peaked at high 50s.
The mayor says those noise levels will not be permanent, writing on Facebook that new quieter turbines will be coming as well as soundproofing construction. We reached out to XAI about both the Memphis facility and the new South Haven facility, and they replied with what appears to be an anti-media auto-reply. But these conflicts and possible solutions are part of the collision between small-town quality of life, big money, cutting-edge technology, and the AI revolution.
We appreciate the magnitude of this and all the financial benefits it's going to create for our citizens and all the things it's going to do for the people here.
And coming up, we are talking all things Golden Globes, a big win, surprises, and maybe some eyebrow-raising moments. But first, you got to see this. Meet Mattel's first autistic Barbie. She was created in collaboration with the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network to reflect how some autistic kids experience the world. From sensory-friendly clothing to thoughtful communication accessories, a doll was designed with inclusion and representation in mind. We'll be right back. All right, we're back on the chat. Back on the chat. We got one more block. We are recapping the Golden Globes. I don't know if you guys tuned in last night. I still am struggling with hi.
About 1 minute.
One battle after another. Comedy, musical, come on.
I mean, these categories.
Come on.
They mess
oh my
with
gosh,
us.
yeah, they totally mess with us. I'm going to introduce this show into the musical category because
I think you should.
you know.
There's not a lot of competition.
Yeah.
Music.
About 30 to go.
We are definitely, comedy for sure.
Are you going to see the back of her head?
I don't think so. Oh, it's 30? Okay. This is Rebecca Keegan. She's one of our amazing reporters here. This is the stream. Rebecca, I'll tell you later.
Okay.
Basically, we've got this live stream kind of Twitch thing going, and we're experimenting with it, so it'll be fun.
Going back to the dust. Seven, 5, 4, 3.
And finally tonight, we are recapping the 83rd Golden Globes and the real start of the Hollywood award season. And if you've been following the movies this year, you know that wins for K-pop Demon Hunters, one battle after another, and Timothée Chalamet were all expected, but there still were some surprises. Let's bring in senior Hollywood reporter for NBC News Digital, Rebecca Keegan, who was at the award show last night, even got to be in the exclusive ballroom. Lucky you. And yet, the thing that I keep talking about with all of my friends, one battle after another, no surprise there. But it's musical comedy? Like, what is going on?
It's a weird category. I mean, you could make the case that One Battle After Another is a drama with some comedic elements. Clearly, Warner Brothers, the studio that released it, chose this category because they thought it gave them their best shot. And that paid off. One Battle After Another won for director, screenplay, supporting actress, and Best Picture in that category. Hamnet was the movie that won in the drama category, which perhaps they would have had to been up against. And those two movies are clearly going into the Oscars with the biggest headwinds.
Hamnet should have had a couple more jokes or maybe a little bit of music.
Or a musical
maybe
number.
Some dancing there. Were there any surprises that caught you off guard? And what was it like being there?
Yeah, I mean, one of the surprising awards was Wagner Moura, who won for this movie, The Secret Agent. This is a Brazilian thriller, still only out in a few theaters here in the United States. It hasn't gone wide yet, but he was up against actors like Dwayne Johnson and Michael B. Jordan for much more widely seen movies. But I think the thing that surprised me most wasn't about who won or lost, but about who got the most attention in the ballroom last night, which was the two stars of Heated Rivalry. So, we're in a ballroom with people like Leonardo DiCaprio and Jennifer Lawrence and big stars. Here are two actors that most people, including me, hadn't heard of 2 months ago, and they were just getting swarmed. This is Hudson Williams and Connor Story, by people coming up and asking to meet them, and they were just wide-eyed. And I thought the clearest sign they were new in town was that they actually got to dinner on time at 3:45.
Wait, hold on. That sounds like an episode of The Studio.
Totally.
It does seem like, all of a sudden somebody becomes the breakaway star. I do want to ask, though, about the star off screen, which seems to be like the Poly Market thing. Is this a sign of what's to come for basically all award shows here until eternity?
Yeah, this was the first time. And what was so interesting is in the ballroom, we could not see these Polymarket numbers, which people at home were seeing on the screen while they watched this award show, numbers about how people were betting on the categories, who would win, who would lose. We couldn't see it in the ballroom, and I think that's partly because a talent may not have liked that particular piece of information.
No, that would stress you out like to no ends.
Right.
Do you think that, I mean, that's going to be controversial no matter what, right? But does it seem like that is here to stay?
Well, what it does is it engages people in award shows. The ratings for award shows have been going down, and the producers of them would love for audiences to feel invested in them the same way they are, say, in a football game.
Nothing invests people like money, I guess.
Like having money on the line.
Rebecca, thank you so much. That's going to do it for us tonight. I'm Gotti Schwartz. We'll see you here tomorrow, but until then, stay tuned to NBC News Now. That was amazing. Thank you. Lisa, you gave me a fake 10. You gave me a fake 10. You totally didn't think I was going to do a 10. Ah, awesome. Yeah, Rebecca, thank you so much. Hey, okay, so you guys want to see how this works real fast? All right, so these guys, hopefully they're being nice right now. But this is our little chat right here. And so here, well, the data center is proof. So people are able to weigh in on what's going on, and then I try to monitor it throughout the show, and then whenever I can, like, inject a question that somebody's asking, it goes straight from here onto, the brain of the correspondent, hopefully. And then what is this? Clearly our spam functions are not doing too great. But this is when we the moderation is like, oh, it's 6 o'clock, goodbye. But yeah, hello from New Mexico. So it's all kinds of different people that come in, and then our audio's dropping, everything's falling off right now. But yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's amazing to me that you can take in that information while you're doing the show.
So yeah, we've got
lobe in your brain.
So we've got this, our show, and then we can take the full show. We do picture in picture, so it kind of looks like the Twitch streaming.
Is someone controlling that, or you're having control?
I'm controlling it. Then during the commercial breaks, I go iPad cam that taps into this, and then I have a conversation with the audience directly during the commercial breaks, and then we go back into like the main show, and then. I like
these questions.
Yeah, I mean, some of them are really great. Yeah. Bye, guys. Oh, I want Sinners to win more. Yeah, definitely. Okay, let's see here. So that's what we're experimenting with almost. Yeah, we've